running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletic fans. Welcome to Talking in Ovals. You got me this week's solo, Alex, out there in Disney with his friends and his family and loving Mickey Mouse. So you got me tonight, and we're going to have a great time. Before we start, let's talk about last week's show. It was kind of different for us. We were at the New York City Legends Dinner Gala for the New York City Marathon in Staten Island. It was an absolutely amazing time. We got to talk to some amazing people. I do apologize for the internet being very, very spotty. We hope if we get invited back next year to get that rectified. But what an amazing time with amazing people. I mean, I got to meet Bill Rogers, Joan Benoit Samuelson, Jim Spivey, Rod Dixon. It was an absolute who's who. Matt Centrowitz Sr. It was an absolute, like, I cannot express how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to be there. So thank you, Jeff Benjamin. Thank you, Staten Island. Thank you, everybody who was there. It was an honor to be there. All right, this week, Saturday, finally, we have the River Rock and Run 5K in Bricktown, New Jersey at River Rock. You can run this as a 5K as an individual. You can also run it as a relay where you hand off a baton in a 5K. Everything, all the proceeds go to the Monmouth and Hershey County food banks. It's a great cause. Go there, have some fun, run a great race yourself, relay, have some great food and drinks afterwards. Shout out to my buddy Adam Nelvin for putting that together. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in this week's guest. Speaking of the gala, we met this gentleman there. He is a coach for over 30 years at 3 different schools. He is now the head coach at Hershey High School in Pennsylvania. We're going to bring in Steve Koons. We don't have video, but we have audio. Steve, how are you? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I am doing great, David. I really appreciate being on your show, and I enjoyed the gala and meeting all those world champions. It was a thrill to be around you guys.
It was an absolute blast. I mean, look, like I said, the who's who of our sport were there, and I want to give you a special shout out because if it wasn't for you, Alex and I would not have guests. You were amazing at getting guests when they were done speaking to come over and talk to us. So thank you for that. It made our lives so much easier. And it's just proof that this community of runners, we're all in it together. So thank you for that.
I really enjoyed getting to talk to those people and listening to their stories. They were just so full of wisdom, especially Joan Benoit talking about how important it is for young ladies. And she discussed Title IX and a lot of different things that have changed in the women's side of running.
Yeah, I mean, she was saying how, she's the kind of the pioneer, the first U.S. Olympics marathon. She was there. So, and it was just great. The fact that they have all these high school kids who can go there free, meet all these idols, go up on stage. It's just a cool event and shows how humble and gracious the biggest the biggest stars in our sport are.
Definitely. They were so nice. We went for a run the day after the banquet, and there were about 7 world-class runners with us, and I was with Jeff Benjamin, and we were just sort of normal guys with our heroes that we grew up with. It was a real thrill to be able to run with those people.
That's amazing. So I'm going to start you off with the question that we start all of our guests with, because almost all of our guests have been runners in their own right. So I want to talk to you. What was the spark that gave you the mindset that I want to be a runner over all other sports? Like, what was the spark that kind of started you on this journey that's taken you not only as a runner, but now in a whole new career as a coach?
Well, I joined cross country because my friends were doing it, and I joined it in 11th grade, believe it or not.
Wow. So you were a latecomer.
Yeah.
To the sport.
I had gone out for track and had been a soccer player. And in 10th grade, I went out for track in the spring. And then the cross country coach said, "You were really good at track. Why don't you try cross country?" I ended up loving cross country much more. But the spark that really occurred was in that 11th grade year, I made it throughout the whole season. And in Pennsylvania, the toughest meet is our state meet, the state championship at the end of the year.
Right.
And in our qualifying for that, I was one place off of making the state meet. So I went with my father to watch the state meet because my good friend, who I trained with, who was from a nearby school, his name is Steve Spence. And many years later,
Yeah,
after
that's
being an All-American 4 times, and
not a bad friend to
yeah,
have.
he won the Olympic trials in the marathon for the United States. And um, at that point, we were in high school, and I went to watch Steve run the state championship. I think he came in fourth, and it was a terrible, rainy, downpouring day. Some of the athletes lost one spike and still finished the race. Um, and I was standing there watching Steve get his award, finishing in the top 20. And I said to my father, who took me, I said, I'm going to be here next year. And he said, That's great. That's a great attitude. And I said to him, No, I'm going to be here and I'm going to earn a medal. I'm going to finish in the top 20. And my dad said, he sort of laughed and said, You didn't qualify. Like, just try to make it to this meet. I said, No, I was just really frustrated. And he said, well, yeah, you go ahead and try that. And I thought about it. And I thought about it for a year. And I logged in my book and I trained all summer long, June, July, and August, thinking about I'm going to get a medal in a state meet. And the next year I qualified for the state meet and they gave out 20 medals and I finished 20th,
Hey,
which is
got a medal.
was the thing. It was the turning point in my life to say, you know what? I love this sport. I want to be a runner. I want to make dedication to doing the best I can do and maybe someday run in college.
Sure. So obviously you didn't start till 11th grade. So you had a very short high school career. Give me some of your favorite memories from that time of your life through, running in high school. And, because a lot of people that we have, their biggest memories are the friendships, running with their friends who they grew up with and running relays or cross country, because our sport is so individualized, but it's also can have such a great team component. So what are some of your memories from that high school time?
Um, my memories were I uh, didn't have a whole lot of close friends. And then from being in track and field and cross country and being a co-captain of the cross country team, I had this group of runners who I did everything with.
Yep.
It was much more than just
A team,
practices.
right?
It was going to the movies. It was dating girls on our team. It
Yeah.
was spending every Friday night, with the group of people who were on the team.
I think you bring up such a great point because some of my best friends still to this day were my teammates in high school. You forge such an amazing bond because you go to battle with these people every day that it, especially distance runners. I'd say cross country maybe is a little different than track because you all have the same goal. You're all doing the same thing. I found most of my closest friends were from cross country, friends on track, but cross country because we were all in this together. So I mean, just what was it like? Just I think that's a great point. Is that the fact that you can forge and build these great friendships that can last a lifetime from
Sure.
just
And it
doing the sport.
it wasn't really about who was number one and who was number 15.
Yep,
Like everyone was accepted. Everyone was cared about. And you would win the race or be up in the front, and then you would turn around and cheer on your teammates.
absolutely.
Like it was the most bonding thing you could do.
Yeah,
um,
I don't know of a sport out there that can bond people more than cross country. Maybe wrestling. They're similar, but those real Olympic original events, just because it's I don't know, like especially cross country, you're so dependent on yourself, but you also are so dependent on those six other guys. So it's just such a great dynamic that, and you see it now. The teams that are close, that have bonds, usually perform better than those teams who are just out there as individuals.
oh, you're definitely right. And as a coach, and I'm sure you know this too, um, there is a huge transition for anyone, people not even in our sport, who are going to college. And you go from high school and a little close community where you've grown up with all those kids to this big college, and you don't know anyone.
Right.
And for the first month, it's really difficult. But when you're on a team
Oh,
and you go to summer camp
that's the best.
with
Yep.
these people and they watch out for you and they
Yep.
let you know you are family, that transition is so much better. And your coach is giving you studying hours, and my coach was like a father to me.
Yeah.
It made going to college so much easier, having a family that cared about you.
And you know what? I think you hit the nail on the head. I was so nervous to go to college because I didn't know anybody. But the fact that I went maybe 2 weeks early and had that summer training with
Yeah.
just my team made the transition once college started so much easier. That's a great point, and that's something that I don't think gets talked about. That I forgot myself how hard that transition can be from high school where you're with the same people for 12, 13 years, and all of a sudden you're on your own. Having that team and those people around you really benefits.
Well, and I know this might not be in our discussion right now, but
Doesn't matter. It's an open
um,
discussion.
because I've coached for so long and I've had kids go to a community college,
Sure.
and be on a pickup team or a smaller club team, and I've had kids go D1 and get full ride scholarships. Um, I always talk to the kids, especially those kids who want to go D1 or D2, and they're really serious about their running. Like they're going on all these college visits, and they're like, "What should I ask?" I want to know that they're with a good coach. I always ask them to talk to the kids who are on the team when they're not around the coach and say, "How does the coach handle it when you don't run a good race and you have a bad day?" You
Yeah.
know, some coaches are very unkind. They work from fear, and other coaches are very nurturing and
Hmm.
they care about you. They care about your grades. They care about your
Yeah.
mental well being.
And some kids need that tough coach, but I think the majority of kids, especially nowadays, need that ladder coach that you were describing, that like father or motherly figure who will, support them. I think that era has certainly changed some.
Yeah, and I do know that with the pandemic, um, everything changed in education, and uh, I think a lot of the people who are coming out of high school now um, have a lot of emotional challenges from that lockdown period when we couldn't socialize, and
Sure.
it was very difficult. And we're sort of trying to process and help those kids to become more healthy minded. And
Sure.
um, having a coach that cares about you is like having another father or mother at school. And some of these coaches, they're there as a husband and wife team, and they're very nurturing. And for me, I don't know about everyone, but for me, that's what I needed.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's and I feel like that's more the way that it's going now. I mean, you'll still have some of your successful old school coaches, but I feel like it's definitely changing. So back to you. You didn't start until 11th grade.
Correct.
So you had to have a really quick process of choosing a college. You ended up going to Millersville. I know that school well because my freshman year I went to East Stroudsburg, so we used to race against Millersville
Oh yeah, the
often.
PSAC League.
PSAC, yep. But so a very proud school, longtime coach. What went into your choice to going there? And do you feel that maybe if you had more time, you would have went somewhere different, or do you think that that was the perfect place for you?
No, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Um, I knew I wanted to be Division 2.
Gotcha.
Um, I probably could have. Well, I would have been allowed to run in Division 1 programs, but I wouldn't have traveled much
Right.
because I wouldn't have made that top varsity group to travel. And some people choose to be in Division 1 and just do a whole lot of practicing and very little racing. I wanted to be in the thick of things, and my major, I knew I wanted to be a teacher and
Sure.
coach when I was a kid. So this school was very good with my major, and I went to 4 different schools and applied to 4 different schools that were all Division 2 state schools in the
Okay.
league that you and I were in, called the
Yep.
PSAC, Pennsylvania State Athletic
Athletic. Yep.
Conference.
I mean,
And
there's some great
when you
schools in there.
walk
I
on a
mean,
campus and you just
yep,
feel like this is where I fit.
absolutely. I mean, there's some great schools in there. You have Edinburgh, Millersville, Slippery Rock. I mean, there's some great
Definitely.
competition. You know, it's so. Do you feel that maybe since you had such a limited time that you could have maybe gone somewhere different if you ran all 4 years, or you just live like, hey, this is what happened. I have no regrets, and you've probably never even thought about it.
I never really thought about it. I didn't
Good.
realize in ninth grade I had played so much soccer in middle school and at ninth grade. I thought I was going to be a good soccer player, and then I realized that um, I could beat everyone in my school in the mile and 2 mile.
Right.
And so I went to a running club of adults in Harrisburg, a road runners club.
Okay.
And Harrisburg's the capital of
Sure.
Pennsylvania, so they have a pretty big chapter of the Roadrunners Club. And I was just surrounded in the early 80s by all these old men who were training for marathons. So I got a little crazy in high school with miles. And
Gotcha.
in the early 80s, we believed that
That's what
miles were
everyone
money
did.
in the
Yeah.
bank.
At at that time, it was miles, 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 more, 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 more. So
So after the state meet, um, the week after it, we had a local marathon called the Harrisburg Marathon, and I went out and ran it, and ran 2 hours and 49 minutes because I had been running like 70 miles a
yeah,
week.
but for a high school kid, that's a great marathon debut.
Yeah, that was a good place to be. Um, I just had been so influenced by older runners, and I think you probably feel this way too. You know, we went into coaching because people did this for us and we want to do
Sure.
it for others.
Yeah, I mean, I just loved the sport so much that I wanted to find a way that I could still be involved, knowing that I'm not good enough to compete after college. What is the best way that I can go to get into the sport? And it was through teaching and coaching, and I feel like that's why a lot of us get into it. Like, we don't want to let it go. Like, the sport has given us so much that we just want to give back.
Right. And I think it's a lifetime activity. I really do. I mean, obviously you have to slow down and you don't want to cripple yourself, but I'm 61 and I'm running a half marathon in a couple of weeks, and I still enjoy running. It's just slower.
Yeah, I listen. That's fine. So back to you. You're at Millersville. You're probably very untapped because you only ran for a year and a half. Um, did you see a lot of progress once you went there? Obviously, your career was great because it came out that you are a Hall of Fame nominee for 2025. So congratulations on that. So
Well,
what
thank
was
you.
what was your time like there, and some of your favorite memories from being in Millersville?
Well, my freshman year, um, my team was very, very fortunate, and they ended up winning the national meet Division 2.
Wow,
And the team that came in second was Edinburgh, who was also another
they're
Pennsylvania team.
both from the PSAC.
Yeah. So the only banner that we have for men's programs at Millersville still in the gym for a national championship team is the cross country team. And so that year I was the eighth man. It was when we went to nationals. I trained with the guys, but the NCAA said we're only paying for 7 to fly
Oh
to the
God.
meet.
So they can't
So
bring
the
one
the
extra
coach,
guy?
yeah, the coach said, ah, if someone gets injured, they're only counting the top 5. So I'm sorry, you can't go. And then they ended up winning the meet, which was
Oh,
a really great thing. They had 2 All-Americans and another kid that was close. I think he was 27th. Well, I was so frustrated that I didn't make the varsity because twice that year, near the end of the season, I was our 6th man, but the coach felt like I was a freshman
right.
and didn't really deserve to push someone out. And that's fine, but it really fired me up. By the time then I was a junior, um, we qualified for the national meet and I finished 18th and I was an All-American and I was very happy about that.
Right. So
Um,
looking back, maybe your coach did the best thing for you at that time. You probably didn't think so then, but
he did. He
because it
did.
fueled you,
He gave
it
me a
lit a fire.
burning fire
Right.
without a
So
doubt.
right. So I mean, maybe by him just doing that, it lit something in you that has yet to be extinguished and is still going on now.
Sure, and I I don't know about you, but I think that we or the kids we coach as distance runners, you either have a gift from God of a whole lot of leg speed and you sit and kick, or you're a grinder.
Yep.
And you're just like Prefontaine, where you have to make them hurt in the middle and make them hurt half halfway through, 3/4 of the way through again, and then
Go
try to
again.
kick as much as you can. Um, and that's the kind of running I had to do. I had to work the whole race and then hold my position because it wasn't. I couldn't be tactical and just flip a switch and
Right.
take off like a rocket.
Man, I was always so envious of those people who could just sit and just go.
I know.
So I'm like, man, like, what is it like to just have that flat out speed? But
Oh man, and it must be like
it must be fun.
from your mom and dad or something.
Yeah,
You know?
or like just like knowing like I got this because I was never in a race with 100 meters to go. I'm like, I got this. It was always a battle, like my face, like that. You get that ugly sprint face, and there's spit flying out of your mouth, and you just you're giving it all you got. Where someone goes right by me, and it looks like they're out like on a warm up.
Yes,
It's
I agree
frustrating.
100% with you, and I always believe that even pace wins the race. Like
Yep.
uh, I can think of the kids I coach in high school, and we go to a big meet, a huge invitational, and someone goes out way over their head, and then there's a price to pay at the end. So
Yeah.
I would, I think I learned quickly in high school, and then I carried it through to college that it had to be even splits or negative splits, but going out really crazy fast didn't do it.
But that's what's great about our sport because you could have had a teammate who would have been the exact opposite. So I mean, and that's what's great as a coach is finding all those little nuances that work for each kid. So you've been coaching for 30 years. I want to talk a little bit about the time since you started to now. What are some of the changes that you see either in kids, parents, equipment? Like, what are some
Yes,
of the changes that you've seen in your 30 years of coaching? Some can be good, some can be bad, but over 30 years, I'm sure you've seen the gamut of things.
huge.
So I'm just curious, like, what are some key things that maybe have changed over 30 years? Because you don't really, we've talked to some older coaches who don't coach anymore. We've also talked to some newer coaches. It's nice to have someone on who's kind of been through it all over the last 30 years. So go
Well, I
ahead.
appreciate that. That's a great question. I think one of the biggest things that has changed, and maybe it's because of the internet or publishing books, um, there's so much out there on how to do it the right way.
Yes.
And um, when I started, it was 1986, 87 school year. And coming out of college, very few high school coaches knew what they were doing.
Right.
And now um, we break it down to phases of, um, you know, building base training. And then we do that second phase with like hills, fartleks, negative split training, tempo runs. And then we get to a performance phase. And then we do the taper and peak. And this kind of sort of the Danielson model that
Yeah,
I'm sure you're real familiar with.
sure.
Um, all those books are out there, and a lot of people are really doing things the right way.
Right.
And when I started, very few teams were doing it the right way. So we basically watered everything down and did what we had done in college. Um, and we beat everyone, you know.
Right.
And in the 90s, we won states in cross country, and it was I don't mean to say easy, but a lot easier than it is
Right.
now. Everyone now is very well educated,
Well, you
and
know what it is? I think it was you and I who were talking at the gala, and like when I was younger, or kind of like you're talking about, if you were a talented kid but didn't go to a school that had a good coach, it
right,
affected you. Now those same kids, it doesn't matter. They can go online and
right, and
have a
there's
now.
private coaching out the wazoo.
Right. Well, and I want to talk about that, but I still think that no matter who you get to coach you on the outside, yeah, you might get faster. You're still not going to get that same as if you're with that team and that coach every day in person. I still think
Yeah,
that matters. Like, yeah, you can follow any workout, but when you're doing everything on your own and like there's no coach there, to me, there's still like, if you have a great coach in your school, there's nothing more powerful and there's no better tool to get you to be faster than
I
that
agree a
tool
hundred
in that
percent.
person. But since you brought it up, how do you feel about private coaches? I mean, because it
Oh,
can be,
it's a
it's
hard thing.
it is
It's hard
because
because
there's
people don't
more
have
and
boundaries.
more of them out there, and they get these kids, a lot of them, young age, and it's hard to get that separation. And it's not bad all the time. It's just there. I feel there has to be some sort of communication with the high school coach and the private coach.
Yes, it's all about communication, and there has to be respect for um, when you make a commitment to your school team, and those that private coach and that school coach need to talk, or they're going to give you an injury and you're going to have a stress fracture really fast, or you'll be really frustrated. um, Everyone goes at this from a different angle,
Sure.
and um, one really important component to being successful is believing in what that coach is telling you, that it's going to pay off.
1,000%. And if you have two different people telling you two different things, it gets a little confusing.
It does, and kids end up playing the two coaches against each other, saying
Sure.
one's better than the other, and
Not just the kids. I see it more with the parents.
mom and dad. Oh,
I see it more with them. Like, hey, like, well, he's been with him since he was 8. And I have nothing against private coaches. I think they have a great role. Um, and I think it's great if a kid doesn't have any other option. But if you have an option, go for it.
no, I agree. And you talked about Jim Spivey. Um, he is a fantastic private coach, and he is an outstanding communicator. I don't know how well you know him, but
We
he
talked to him recently at the gala, and we're gonna have him on soon. I've been talking
he'll
with him.
be an
So
excellent speaker.
yeah, I'm excited.
Um, he ran a 3:49
Mile, yep,
mile. He held an American record. He was the head coach at Vanderbilt University for a long time. He's
yep.
produced great runners, and he still privately coaches people. He's coaching right now in Chicago. I think he has a girl in his team who runs a 2:07 half mile, um, which
I
is
know. Yeah,
really smoking fast for a high school kid.
I know many private coaches, and none of the ones that I know have any malice or any ill will. Their goal is to really get, but the ones that I know do a very good job of once they get to high school, let their high school coaches coach.
Right.
You
I
know,
agree. You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen.
no, and I also think that we might have a problem. I think some kids might be starting running too much distance way too young.
Yes.
You know, like
I've
they
seen kids
they get
with
these parents who are a runner and like, oh, you know, they have their kids running, 20 miles a week when they're like 8. And I'm like, whoa, let them have fun. But
right, and those bones are soft, and the orthopedic surgeons are analyzing Osgood-Schlatter's disease, where the bone is split. It grows that way
yeah,
because the kids have pounded on them when they're soft.
yeah. All right, Steve, let's get to it. The big debate lately, the shoes. What do you think? Are they as much of an impact as everyone says, or is it all hype and it's just the natural progression of shoes, just like we've always had?
I think the shoes. I think there's some truth to it. I think they really are engineered faster.
Sure. I
Um,
think the big thing is I haven't worn them because I don't really run or compete much anymore. I'm more of a cyclist now at this point, but I just feel like from what I've heard, the big thing is not that they make it that much faster, but you're able to recover and come back the next day fast. So like there's not that time where your body needs to recover because there's less impact.
I believe that. Um, I also think the materials that they're using are more high tech.
Right.
They're improving.
So do you think the shoes, like we talked about training, is the reason why we're seeing such this influx in fast times? That fact that, kids have so much more information, they have better technology, like everything's just kind of there for them to succeed.
I think the shoes are one small part of it. Uh,
Small, yes.
I think um, the knowledge. I think the internet. I do think technology can be really helpful, or can really be hurtful.
Agreed.
And I can explain that too in a second. But uh, our tracks are better. Our surfaces are unbelievable.
You have
Um,
Strava, you have like you can see what other kids are doing, and then you can it's a whole different world. And part of me is like, I wish that I lived now, but there's a bigger part of me that's like, I'm glad I lived in a simpler time, like where I didn't know what everybody else ran. Like I just did my own thing and hung out with my team. I feel like now, like some of these kids are being pulled in so many different ways. Like they got this. They have to post this on this social media, and then they have to do this, and it's crazy. I mean, I don't know how these kids find time to train and live lives, but it's impressive.
I do. I do battle with high school kids that I coach who are addicted and obsessed with comparison to other runners
Sure.
on the internet. And I don't know how to keep them off it.
I don't know
And
if
their repetition, looking on a daily basis, or posting big numbers and continuing to post more big numbers um, on their Strava account just to look a certain way
I
is
know.
harmful.
It's 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 crazy that we've gotten to the point that some kids actually lie on Strava. Like it's not
Uh,
helping you.
yeah, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy
No, no,
for
no.
your mind. The compare, when you get to a race on that day, it's not science.
No.
It you're a lot of it is, how do you feel about yourself?
Sure.
Um, yes, training hard and having the biomechanics genetically is really important, but the belief that you have that you can do it is also a component that you must have to be successful. And when you're looking at all these stats and you're thinking, boy, maybe I'm not as good because
Sure.
I posted a fast time, kids are getting crazy
Yeah,
about obsessing over that.
and if you have to get to the point where you have to put fake numbers, there's no way that you're going to run the race well on the weekend because you've already given up internally. You're like, well, if I have to lie, so that you're already lying to yourself.
Right. And think of the pressure.
I
Think,
know. Like I said, like I don't know how these kids have to deal with things like I just got up and ran. Like I didn't know what anybody ran till the newspaper the next day. These kids know within 3 minutes that their race ends, what their time was, what their splits were. It's a whole different, like,
and they know what everyone else in
yeah,
their
like,
state ran that weekend.
do you remember going to XC races where you had a card and it took like an hour and a half to 2 hours to you had to hand your card into your coach. He wrote on the back of every card and then he had to hand it in. He had to add it up. Now it's like I don't know.
Yeah, I can
It's
remember
crazy.
them collecting popsicle sticks.
Popsicle sticks was a big one too. Yeah.
Write it down on a paper.
So what are some other things that you feel in your 30 years that have kind of changed? Like, do you feel that the overall demeanor of the kids, do you feel like they have more confidence, less confidence? Do you feel like they're I don't know, because I kind of feel like it's weird. Like I feel like overall there's more of a sense of anxiety and stress, but my top level competitors are just as tough as any kid that I've ever coached. So I feel like there's a broader spectrum of where these kids are on a mental level.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is a broader spectrum. That's a good way to put it because we still have the kids that are spectacular.
Whew, yeah. Probably even more so now. Or like we said, because of the training, time wise, maybe not talent wise, but time wise, because
But then
of all those
the
things.
next group back, there's less of them. Um, it just seems to me in the past, uh, we had the running boom, and then it sort of died off. And
It did. The mid 90s was kind of bleak, especially on the pro level. I remember talking to Jim
true,
Spivey on Wednesday. Like he was like really the only miler that we had at the time. There was a big lull. We had that big running boom, and then even on
right?
that pro level. And now, we're especially on the distance side, we're really starting to see this huge uptick in just how fast, like that I don't know if it's that the Americans are able to now train full time, like it's an actual job, our top levels, but we are competing at a level that I don't think we've ever seen this Olympics. I don't think we've seen a level of American distance runners in every event that high on the men and women's side.
Well, how about that 1500 meter
Whew.
men? Holy cow! I went to the trials. I was fortunate enough
Oh
to be
wow, that'd
here,
be nice.
and I bought the whole packet because it's a much better price and saw as many events as possible. And it is amazing how strong the United States is right now.
Yeah, I mean we've always had our sprinters and throwers, but from the 800 up, like I mean one of the best races I thought was 141, the American record, didn't even place.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
that's a good point.
So I'm going to ask you the question that we ask everyone as we leave. Our goal on this show is to get these pro athletes to not have to worry like in every other sport, where they can have a financial situation that's comfortable for them. If you had a magic wand, it could change anything in this sport so that the casual fan, like the people not like us, but the casual fan would be more appealing. What do you think that this sport can do to draw in those casual fans? Because you and I and everyone we met at that gala, we're going to watch anyway. But how do we get those fans so we can get more money to get these athletes paid? I mean, we've had so many different great answers here. I'm just curious if you've ever thought like, what can we do? Because the talent's there, it's big everywhere else in the world. How do we get track on par with some of these other sports, or how it is in Europe?
I mean, this might be a strange answer, but I think through television or you know Netflix and those things. Did you see the documentary on the sprinters?
Sprint part 2 comes out this week, where they bring it up through the Olympics.
that has gained
It was great.
so much attention and has um, made people really
Yeah,
interested in what's going on with the sprinting.
sure.
We could do that with our distance runners. We have some studs, you know?
Listen, if you had a documentary with, like, and it doesn't just have to be Americans, because like sprint wasn't, you have Jakob, you have Kerr, you have, you could do it, and it would be great. The issue that we feel is not that there's interest, because we feel like there's more interest now than there's been in a long time, especially coming off of France. It's where do you find it on TV? Everything is behind a paywall. Like it's never on like to watch. And now Diamond League's going to Flow Track. So I just feel like we need to have a broadcast home that's free. So someone can just be flipping through every channel. Oh, there's track, just like they will with any other sport.
That would be great.
I just don't know what's going to happen, with this. But I think we're at a spot now where we haven't been this ready and primed. Coming off of the Olympics, Michael Johnson starting his new league. Like the Olympics are in LA in 20. If we don't take this now and run with it, I don't know if we'll ever have a better opportunity. So everyone out there, like just
You're right about that.
all these big people out there who are in the sport, strike now. I think this league for Michael Johnson is going to be huge. He has already signed some of the best athletes. And I'm just curious to see, he wants to have like an hour and a half to 2 hour finals only. Boom. That's what we need. You and I will watch every trial,
Sure.
every prelim, but the person who we're trying to get to watch us, who's not a track fan, they're not watching that. We need to just streamline it to get those people in. And then maybe they will say, oh, wow, I wonder how this person ran to get to this point. Then they'll start asking questions, but we need to put it out there. Boom, boom, boom. Finals, and just let it rip and give them an entertaining sport for that hour and a half. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think that's great. There are so many athletes who are amazing on the world level in track and field that people don't even like. Val Almond, do you know who
Oh
she
my
is?
God. Absolute stud. I mean, she is just what she does with that discus is unbelievable.
She is awesome. And she actually grew up in elementary school where I taught.
Oh, nice.
She was a Hershey kid.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and when she was in elementary school, she was a dancer. And a lot of her balance that she learned, the fundamentals of it came from ballet dancing.
Yeah, I mean,
Sort of funny.
we have some of the greatest athletes ever competing now in track. So, I mean, I would love to see
And
these
the
guys.
thrower from Penn State, the big boy.
Yeah. I mean,
He's
there's
phenomenal. He's from Pennsylvania also.
there, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Give me some Northeast, and we will compete against any other part of the region in track and field.
You're right.
Hands down.
Do you remember Carl Lewis's parents running that track club in Willingboro, New Jersey?
Carl and Cal are both from the Willingboro,
Yeah,
which
that
makes
track
me
club produced a lot of athletes.
which gets me frustrated when he now claims that he's from Houston. I'm like, no, you're a Jersey guy. But anyway,
He's from Jersey.
I know he is.
His mom and dad ran that track club.
His
He played in
sister was like a
little
22 furlong jumper. She was ridiculous.
Carol.
Was ridiculous. All right, Steve, this has been absolutely wonderful. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I can't thank you enough for your help at the gala next week. I can't wait to go there next year and see you again. So what do you have coming up for the rest of this XC season, and how's it looking for the winter for you? You want to give any kids a shout out? Go ahead.
Well, and I actually stopped coaching track a few years ago, and now I'm a track official. Our one young man on our team did really well at our state meet. He was third last week, and he has two more national meets. He has the Foot Locker Regional in Boston at Franklin Park, and then he's going to
still weird saying that the Foot Locker is in.
I know
not at Van Cortlandt Park. I mean, we had Jorge Torres on, great guy. He runs it now. The meet's still great. It's just weird because it's a Van Cortlandt meet, always has been.
Yeah, that I am sad that it's not in New York.
I am
I'm
too.
very sad.
Because it's just a
It's
story court. Not that
legendary.
Franklin Field is. I mean, that's a great park too. But it's Van Cortlandt Park. It's New York City.
I
It's
know it has to be there in my mind.
yeah, but
That's one of the most famous cross country courses in the United States. And
absolutely.
they took it away. And it's not right. So
Well, we
I've
thank
got
you
training
for
for those two races, the two national meets.
love it, and thank you for officiating. I know here in New Jersey, we never have enough. So I always love seeing when a retired coach goes into it because that they know the rule book and that they're going to be calling it evenly because we have a lot of here that it's a little hit or miss, and the average age here is probably 75 for the
Yeah,
officials.
it is.
So
It is one of those
we
things.
need young blood.
I feel like people came before me and they did it
Sure.
for me, and now I need to pay it back. You know?
Yeah. No. Listen. When I'm done coaching, that's certainly something that I would like to do. Like I said earlier, any way to stay in the sport.
Yeah, very
Anything,
enjoyable.
anything that I could do. All right,
But
Steve.
thank you for this opportunity.
Steve, it's the
I love you guys. You're
pleasure
great.
is mine. And all right, guys, this is Steve Koons, cross country coach, Hershey, Pennsylvania. Has a kid running in Foot Locker, and hopefully he can make it to the Foot Locker Nationals. Steve, it's been a wonderful time.